Today we're focusing on blocking. Blocking training starts already with players under the age of 12. The foundation is a firm core and extended arms with spread fingers positioned in front of the face. We also train the so-called hook position, engaged core and legs that mimic the shape of a hook. Ground-based drills are fun for children and gently prepare them for future blocking skills. We start block simulation drills with an overball in a lying position, then progress to standing on a bench. We first focus on body stability, then on coordinating the upward arm movement toward the ball. The arms must be kept as close together as possible to simulate synchronized blocking against an attacker. In this drill, a check diagonal player experienced a solid finish block.
The next phase focuses on hand penetration across the net. The arms do not go upward but forward, just in front of the face. We start on a low net while standing on the floor, using a hoop as a guide. First, we touch and pull back the ball, then simulate a block against a tossed over ball. We make sure the fingers and arms penetrate immediately over and across the net. We repeat the same pattern while jumping, initially using a lower net to maintain focus on arm movement. At first, we tolerate net contact. Correct arm action is more important. We start with one ball, then move to two. The backward position of bent arms helps with the jump and defines spacing from the net. We teach kids to jump with an arm swing, as is standard in high-level volleyball.
Even though this isn't yet full blocking and kids occasionally touch the net, they are building fundamental movement patterns. Perfect blocking is a long journey. It will require reading the game, timing the jump, and finding the ideal takeoff spot. The important thing is that the technical foundations are already in place. At the age of 13, we transition to a full-height net and continue using the overball for safe training and to develop a good feeling for the block. The path to an effective block is long, which is why we start relatively early. Blocking requires care, courage, and perseverance. And these 13-year-olds already know what it feels like to score a point with a block.
In real gameplay, blocking usually starts with movement, not with a jump from a stationary position. In the middle blocker of the Czech national team, we see a typical start. Small steps, a split step, and then lateral movement. The split step occurs just before the action when the direction is still unclear. To train these movements effectively, it's important for attackers to pull back their elbow properly, as this becomes a critical visual cue for the blocker's jump. We start with a side step, used for short distance movement. One foot steps to the side and the other follows to the takeoff point. These drills are regularly practiced between ages 12 and 13, and they are worth revisiting. During this exercise, we again emphasize penetrating the arms across the net. It's important for kids to understand that the movement of bent arms starts during the side step itself. We draw on the movement patterns already learned from stationary blocking.
The crossover step or running transition occurs more often in the game and covers longer distances. Moving to the left starts with a step from the left foot, followed by a crossover with the right foot landing on the heel, and finishes with a plant using the left foot's rotated toe, ideally landing perpendicular to the net. This pattern is similar to an attacker's approach. Moving to the right is a bit more difficult because the attacking approach pattern doesn't apply. Here the footwork is right-left-right. Children struggle more with this, but we know that a quality player must be able to execute equally well on both sides. At this stage, we add repeated block jumps after crossover movements. We also include these and similar drills in training for older categories, including adults. In this case, we observe them in training for 15-year-olds. We then include similar drills, now involving a block against an overball following an attack from the opponent's side. The player on the other side of the net throws the ball after an approach, and the blocker mirrors the same step rhythm, but slightly delayed. We modify these drills in various ways, but the key understanding is that the final action is the block, not the movement. That's why we focus on ensuring that after the lateral movement, there is again a perfect hand penetration over the net.
Now it's time to block realistically. That means preventing the ball from crossing the net. Timing is essential. The blocker jumps at the moment the attacker pulls their elbow back. This same principle applies in real matches. The reason we initially attack from below is to eliminate the risk of finger injury from high-level contact before players have fully automated their blocking movements. Next comes blocking after a sidestep. And again, we emphasize that the backward elbow movement is part of the transition. We also focus on proper hand penetration over the net. Then we move to blocking against a hit from an elevated position, which more closely resembles game conditions. And finally, we get to blocking after a crossover move. Once again, arm movement is part of the transition. This step is slightly more complex in terms of coordination. The very last progression is full blocking after a crossover movement.
During the block, the arms rise in front of the body, not above it. The correct angle is established during the jump takeoff so that the hands penetrate the net in a downward-facing position. This is the only way to drive the ball straight down, as demonstrated by Italian player Lavia. Raising the arms overhead weakens the block. The correct angle creates a firm hook, as seen with Polish player Leon.
Now we get into blocking specifics at the U16 level. During the jump, the arms must be bent and immediately directed forward. This creates the correct blocking angle. Under pressure, however, players often swing their straightened arms backward, drawing an arc over the head. The result is arm extension and a pocket between the hands and the net, which reduces block effectiveness. This correct pattern needs to be drilled until it becomes automatic in game situations.
For a block to be effective, the body, arms, and hands must be firm. Attention to detail and physical readiness determine whether the block will be impenetrable or if the attacker will tool or break through it. That's why we emphasize stability from the beginning and started with overballs to help children overcome the fear of a flying ball. Gradually, we increased the difficulty and transitioned to the official volleyball. We can observe how thoroughly players prepare for blocking before a match. A blocker's decision-making is influenced by whether they are blocking alone or as part of a double or triple block.
A clean single block is relatively rare in high-level volleyball. It usually occurs when the middle blocker doesn't arrive in time. The outside hitter then blocks alone and has more freedom in choosing direction. A middle blocker in a single block has a better chance of success due to the attacker's shorter reaction time, but still finds themselves at a disadvantage. A double block increases the chance of success by covering more court space and allowing better defensive positioning. Its purpose is to compactly cover a designated area. Sometimes it's a support action. One blocker slows the ball down to help the defense recover it. A triple block expands the defensive coverage. Attackers usually don't avoid it, but instead try to exploit its weaknesses. The goal of the triple block is to close these gaps and eliminate the holes attackers look for.
One of the key elements of blocking is the correct timing of the jump. The blocker jumps the moment the attacker enters the archer position. We practice this timing using an overball and during attacks off self-tosses or setter's sets. In quick middle attacks, reading the game becomes decisive. Sometimes action is required before the situation can be fully evaluated.
Covering the line of attack with the block means that the blocker adjusts their hands at the last moment to the direction they expect the hit to go. In training, we develop this skill by modifying positioning or by teaching a late hand adjustment into the line of the attack.
In certain situations, the block's purpose is simply to slow down the attack, giving the defense a better chance to recover the ball. In other cases, the outside blocker joins the middle blocker at the last second and surprises the attacker with a successful block.
The repertoire of a blocker also includes less common situations. For example, a one-handed block or last-moment hand withdrawal when the player expects a wipe-off hit targeting the fingertips. The play doesn't end with a block jump. If the ball goes through, the blocker must immediately react and participate in the next phase, often making the next contact themselves without relying on a teammate.
And what's next? We'll focus on serve reception and forearm passing from early childhood all the way to elite level volleyball.